Hello and welcome to today's lesson. We will be going over animals and their habitats. And to start, we're going to play a little game where I play animal noises and you will listen closely and guess what the animal is. And once you figure that out, you can also make the noises and act as though you are that animal on your way to the corners of the room. And we will be listening to household animals, zoo animals, and farm animals. So, I will play the first sound. Good job, everyone. That was a duck, and they typically live on farms. Yes, that is a horse, and they do also live on farms. Good job, everyone. That is a dog, and they can be seen in houses, and many of you might have a dog as your own pet. And that is a cat, and they also live in houses. This one might be tricky, so I'll play it again. Good job. That is a guinea pig, and lots of people have those as pets. Yes, that is a lion, and they can be found in the zoo. Yes, that's elephants, and they also can be seen in the zoo. That one's a little tricky, so I'll play it again. Okay, that one was, since no one knows, that one was a giraffe, and they can be found in the zoo. So yesterday we talked about what animals we see in our home, in the desert, the ocean, forest, and the Arctic, and we came up with this wonderful list. So we will go through that again. And at our home we might see dogs, cats, and goldfish. In the desert we might see snakes and lizards. In the ocean we might see sharks and turtles. In the forest we might see bunnies and bears. And in the Arctic we can see polar bears and penguins. So these were great ideas, and we will just be expanding on that. But today we will be focusing on the 4 different environments of desert, ocean, forest, and Arctics. And these visuals are what each environment looks like. So for this next part, I would have these pictures projected on the screen, but since I don't have that, I will just go through on my phone. But I would show visuals of the desert, and I would explain to them how it's hot and it's dry, there's not a lot of water access, and not really a lot of greenery. And I would ask them, and I would show them these 2 pictures, and I will ask them what animals might live here that's not on our list. And students would reply foxes, camels, and tortoises. And I would reply to them saying, yes, those animals survive just fine in the desert because they have adapted to the heat by burrowing holes or becoming nocturnal and conserving their water. And then I would show a visual of the ocean, saying how it's water and some parts are warmer than others, and some parts get more sunlight than others. And I would go through and show them pictures like this, and I would ask them what do the animals that live in the ocean have in common? And they would reply, they all can breathe underwater for long periods of time, or something of that sort. And I would say, yes, they don't need to come up for air like we do as often. And then next, for the forest, I would show them these visuals like this and just greenery, and I would explain to them that there's lots of shrubbery and plants that produce oxygen and also serve as food for the animals that live there. And I would ask them what other forest animals might we see, and they could reply with bears, wolves, and owls, and raccoons, and such. And I would reply, great ideas. One thing about those animals is they have something in common, and can anyone guess? And they would be comparing bears, wolves, and owls, and they might say they all eat meat. And I would explain to them that yes, that's correct, and they all are carnivores, and this means they primarily eat other animals in order to survive, and those animals eat primarily the plants that the forest provides, so it's all one big cycle. And lastly, I would show them pictures of the Arctic like this, and explain that it's very low temperatures, so animals need thick fur and blubber to survive, and they also learn how to hibernate and to conserve their energy because there's not a lot of food security and they need to use a lot of energy to find their food. So for our next activity, we will be doing something similar to our first activity, and we will go through the 4 different habitats. And I have these pictures of all types of animals of different habitats, and you will be working with your small groups to sort these animals into their correct habitats, and also come up with 2 sentences for each habitat to describe as to why you sorted these animals this way. And we will do the first habitat together, and we will start with the desert. And now, what animals of these do you think are in the desert? And they have their English word and Spanish word, and they would be spread out all over the table like so. So desert animals would be lizards, snakes, tortoises, camels, and a vulture. And I would have these different color coordinated larger papers for them to just have that color coordination, memory association with that. So there would be blue for ocean, white for Arctic, green for forest, and red for desert. And so they would sort these pictures, and this would also have the images of the animal in their environment, so they could also use context clues and to figure out where each animal might live. So after we sorted and found that these 5 animals live in the desert, I would say, great, now that we figured that out, how do you think these animals are able to survive in such a hot climate? And I would have them talk with their table groups and use the sentence frames that we have posted, and they could say something like, I think the snake and lizard can survive because they are reptiles and have a different type of skin that keeps them cool. And I know that camels and tortoises move very slowly, so I think they are conserving their energy and don't need as much water. And I would say, amazing ideas. Now pick 2 key ideas that you want to highlight and use in your final sentences about the desert. And they might say, or right. The snake and lizard live in the desert because they don't have fur but different skin that keeps them cool in the extreme heat. And animals need to conserve their energy in order to survive in the desert. And this would be a higher level of a level 3 or level 4 proficiency. And I would say, great sentences. Now it's your turn to sort the rest of the animals and come up with sentences like we just practiced. And then they would sort the rest of the animals to their correct color coordinated habitats, and I would walk around the room observing and listening to them, making sure that they are staying on task and are talking with their partner or groups and having discussions and using context clues, past knowledge, and also peer support. And once they have their animals sorted, they will talk about the sentences that they want to create. And then after that, for their independent practice, I would help them finalize their sentences. And I would say, now that you have your 4 sentences, please divide your next free notebook page in your scientific notebook and make it into 4 sections. And each section is your habitat, and I want you to write your final sentences in its corresponding box. And once that's done, I would like you to color coordinate it and color in each box with either red, blue, green, and for the white one, I want you to make it look like it's snowing, and you can draw little circles or snowflakes. And this will help you color coordinate your sentences, and so you can associate those colors in the different habitats that they are in. And this way I'm using color association, and it helps with memory retention and works as a memory cue. And yeah. Then at the end of our lesson, I will ask students to share, I will ask 4 students to share 1 sentence for each habitat. And the student would stand up at their table and just read aloud their sentence and show their coloring. And then after that, I would ask students to pick 2 animals from 2 different habitats, and for next time to be ready to compare and contrast them. And I would let them know that we'll be drawing a picture of these and include its key traits of what it has to survive in these different habitats. So their scientific notebooks would look like this, and I wrote this on my iPad, but I'm recording with my iPad, so it would just be like this. And for level 1 sentence frame for the desert, they could say, this is a camel, it lives in the hot desert. And for level 2 for the ocean, the shark lives in the ocean habitat, it needs water to survive and hunts for food. And level 3 for the Arctic, the polar bear lives in the Arctic. It has thick fur to help keep it warm to survive. And the level 4 for the forest, the wolf lives in the forest habitat. They are predators, so they hunt their food in packs in order to survive. And those would just be a good base model sentence, but they also could just create their own sentences for each habitat.